I was standing in line at the daily blend when the smoke hit me. Sharp. Bitter. Out of place in a health cafe. Someone outside must have lit a cigarette, and for a second, I hated how familiar it tasted. It pulled something from deep inside me, a reflex. A warning. I was there for a turmeric smoothie. Laura's latest thing, a 7-day detox cycle through her gym. I didn't argue when she handed me the receipt and asked me to pick it up. Her schedule was stacked, she said. Appointments. Sauna. Cardio cleanse. I was next in line when I spotted her. She was tucked in the back corner of the cafe, mostly obscured behind a hanging plant and some trendy reclaimed wood beams. Still, I knew her posture immediately, elbow on the table, head tilted slightly like she always did when she was absorbed in a story. Across from her sat a man. Athletic. Young. His hoodie bore the logo of the same gym Laura had just joined. He leaned in, grinning. Her hand grazed his across the table, slow, unthinking, familiar. I didn't move. The guy at the counter asked for my order again. I mumbled something. My focus had tunneled. The world narrowed to Laura's laughter. Not the kind she gave me when I brought home dinner or tripped over our son's Lego pile. This was deeper. Private. Like it belonged to a version of herself I hadn't seen in months. She hadn't noticed me. Not yet. The line moved. Someone bumped into my shoulder, muttered an apology, kept walking. I stepped out of line. Left the cafe. The cold air hit my skin hard, Denver spring wind, fast and dry. The cigarette smell was gone now, replaced by roasted beans and exhaust fumes. I walked 2 blocks before I realized I was still holding her smoothie receipt. A week ago, she told me she was focusing on herself. That she needed space to reset physically and mentally. She'd printed out a schedule from her gym's wellness app, everything from lymphatic massages to supervised fasts. She called it her reset button. I believed her. Because I trusted her. Because she was my wife. At home, our son's sneakers were still by the front door. A dish towel she'd dropped that morning hung from the chair like a forgotten flag. I sat at the kitchen table, the receipt still pinched between my fingers. The smoothie cost $13.50. The exact price of something pure. Something earned. She had smiled at me that morning. Worn her hair in a messy bun. Said, "I'm proud of myself for doing this." I had smiled back and said, "You should be." Now all I could think about was the way her hand drifted across the table toward someone else. It wasn't the physicality that hit hardest. It was the ease. The comfort. That's what betrayal looks like when it's not dramatic, when it's quiet. Casual. Normal enough to pass in public, camouflaged by kale wraps and turmeric lattes. I didn't text her. Didn't call. I took a deep breath, set the receipt down, and opened the Notes app on my phone. Saturday, 10:18 a.m. Café on 17th, Laura with male trainer. Branded hoodie. Physical contact. I stared at the words. Not poetic. Not angry. Just recorded. Then I hit save. I got up, washed my hands, and opened the fridge. Pulled out eggs. Turned on the stove. The world wasn't going to end today. But something in it had already shifted. The first time I saw Laura, she was standing in front of a bookstore in Boulder, balancing 3 novels in one hand and a half-eaten granola bar in the other. I offered to hold the door. She said, "Only if you tell me your favorite author." That was Laura, always tying everyday moments to meaning. We built a life like that. Weekends were for mountain hikes and Saturday tacos. We painted every wall in our Denver home ourselves. Burnt orange in the hallway. Slate blue in the kitchen. We argued over backsplash tiles, laughed through flat-pack furniture disasters, and developed a shared rhythm, one of quiet routines and predictable joys. When our son was born, we were already solid. Laura took to motherhood with a mix of grace and intensity. Everything had to be organic, timed, balanced. I handled the overnight feedings for the first month, even when I had early meetings. I never minded. Looking back now, I think the change began with her reflection. She didn't like the mirror in our upstairs bathroom. One morning, she stood in front of it and said, "This lighting makes me look tired." I thought it was a joke. Then came the gym membership. A new wardrobe. A sudden aversion to bread. She claimed it was just time to focus on herself. "I've given everything to this family," she said once, "I need to feel strong again." I supported it. Of course I did. What kind of husband doesn't want his wife to feel confident? It started small. Weekly visits to a new gym across town. A trainer named Kyle, she said. "Nothing like the meatheads you're imagining," she added with a smile. He was certified in holistic wellness, which apparently included detox plans, food sensitivity tests, and sauna meditation. I remember the first strange receipt. It was $74.52 from a juice bar she never mentioned. I found it folded inside her coat pocket. When I asked, she waved it off. "Part of the package," she said. "They outsource smoothies now." Okay. Then there was the night she came home late, nearly 10 p.m., claiming a yoga class had run long. She smelled like eucalyptus and spearmint, but there was something else beneath it. Something warm and human. She didn't meet my eyes when I asked how it went. Just said, "Sweaty and spiritual." Another time, our son mentioned that Mom was with her gym friend at the cafe near the bookstore. I raised an eyebrow. "Which friend?" "I don't know," he shrugged. "He wore a backpack." Laura told me he was mistaken. "Probably confused me with someone else," she said, brushing it off. But the stories started to pull at the edges. Her phone habits shifted, more time texting, more laughter behind closed doors. Her lock screen changed from a family photo to a black and white image of a woman doing yoga on a mountaintop. She said it inspired her. It unnerved me. One night, I stayed up late finishing some budget reports. Laura had gone to bed hours earlier. At 12:14 a.m., her phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I wasn't going to touch it, but the name caught my eye, K. The preview said, "Sleep well. Can still feel your hands on me. Tomorrow." I didn't unlock it. I didn't need to. Instead, I opened my laptop and started combing through our bank records. Over the past 8 weeks, there were recurring charges to Vital Core Wellness, the gym. Then others to the Clean Crate and Cycle Fuel Café. Always in the same time block. Always paired with Venmo transfers labeled G or recovery. At first, I told myself this was just part of the detox system. A new way of living. A new identity she was trying on. But my gut, the part of me I had silenced for months, was roaring now. I started logging everything. I set up a spreadsheet with timestamps, vendor names, and cross-reference locations. I checked our cloud account, found synced calendar events marked private. One was for a late morning session at 10:30. I happened to be working from home that day. She left at 9:45, claiming she was headed for a group sauna class. I waited 15 minutes. Then drove to the gym myself. She wasn't in the building. Her car was parked across the street at a boutique cafe. Through the glass, I saw her laughing. He sat beside her, tall, lean, tan. He wore the gym's logo on his hoodie. They were holding hands beneath the table. I didn't go inside. I didn't take photos. Not then. I turned the wheel and drove home, opened my notebook, and wrote. Café. 10:58 a.m. Laura plus trainer. Physical contact confirmed. Cross-check with previous entry. No anger. No shouting. Just the beginning of a plan. Something had fractured. Not loudly, but cleanly. And now, I had to decide what I would build in its place. I began with a binder. A black, 3-ring one from the basement office shelf. I labeled it Q1 receipts in case Laura ever saw it. Inside, I inserted clear sleeves, bank statements, time logs, app screenshots, and photographs. Not revenge material. Evidence. I wasn't gathering ammunition, I was gathering clarity. The entries were time-stamped and typed, not scribbled. I cataloged every moment that shifted the structure of our home, every crack, every lie lacquered over with detox smoothies and yoga poses. I made a spreadsheet that cross-referenced our shared calendar with her personal charges and location data. It didn't lie. But I wasn't going to rush. I needed professional eyes. So I called someone who understood structure, Sean, my oldest friend and a civil litigation attorney. Not a divorce specialist, but someone sharp enough to direct me towards someone who was. We met at a quiet bar in Cherry Creek. Over a single drink, I told him what I'd seen, what I knew, and how I was documenting it. He listened, leaning back without judgment. Then said, "Don't confront her. Not until you've built every piece. You get one chance at setting the tone. Quiet men have the most power in a storm." He referred me to a family lawyer named Marla Chen, an expert in Colorado custody and property law. I met her the following Tuesday in her minimalist office, where everything felt sterilized and under control. She didn't offer platitudes or pity, just asked 3 things. 1. What do you want custody-wise? 2. What are your financial priorities? 3. Are you emotionally prepared to not win every battle? I answered clearly. I want stability for my son. I want to keep the house. And I want this handled with structure, not theater. She smiled. Then you're my favorite kind of client. Marla had a checklist. She guided me through disclosure forms, Colorado parenting plan templates, timelines for mediation versus litigation. She told me what evidence mattered, what wouldn't, and which days to start monitoring Laura's communication. I nodded. Took notes. Followed every instruction. I never mentioned the gym. Not yet. At home, Laura floated through her days like nothing was wrong. She meal prepped obsessively, filled the fridge with chia seed pudding and electrolyte packs. She kissed me goodnight like it was reflex. I stopped flinching. I didn't give her any reason to suspect a change. I was quiet. Present. Neutral. That alone gave me control. At night, I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Sasha. Late 30s, no nonsense, soft voice. She asked one question in our first session that stuck: "Are you trying to win, or trying to rebuild?" "Both," I said. "But in that order." She didn't smile. Just wrote it down. And nodded. We talked not about Laura, but about choice. The choices I'd make when this unraveled. The choice to speak, to protect, to walk away with dignity. The choice not to repeat inherited mistakes. My father had left my mother in a whirlwind of blame and shouted accusations. I remembered the noise. The broken plates. The nights on the couch with a pillow over my ears. I wouldn't give my son that legacy. Raymond, our 7-year-old, deserved quiet strength. He didn't need to know what was breaking behind closed doors. He just needed to know I was always there. I began reinforcing that rhythm. I handled more pickups and drop-offs. I made dinner every night, even when Laura said she wasn't hungry. I read with Raymond at bedtime. We built Lego castles. I asked about his day with full attention. Meanwhile, I installed a discreet camera inside the garage, one angled toward the door Laura often used when sneaking in post-gym. I also set up a secondary iCloud account that mirrored her shared photo uploads. She still hadn't changed her password. I didn't exploit it. I just observed. In early April, she made a purchase from a hotel spa in Golden. The receipt was emailed to our shared account. The charge came through as couples massage, signature session. She told me she was going to a fitness conference that weekend. Alone. She left Friday morning. I waited. Then I called the hotel and asked for a receipt confirmation, citing a tax discrepancy. They emailed me the full itinerary. 2 guests. 2 nights. Her signature was on file. I printed it, filed it, and updated my binder. That night, I took Raymond to a baseball game. He fell asleep in the car. When I carried him upstairs, his arms wrapped around my neck and didn't let go for a long time. On Sunday evening, Laura returned with a sun-kissed face and a new bracelet. She smiled. The seminar was incredible. We had a breathwork class that made me cry. In a good way. I nodded. Glad it helped. Then I made her tea. Later, while she showered, I drafted the parenting plan. I gave her generous visitation, every other weekend, 2 weeks in the summer, alternating holidays. I emphasized structure, bedtime consistency, school communication, meal routines. I copied it to Marla. She replied the next day. This is balanced and well thought out. We'll use this as our starting proposal. I took a walk that evening. The air was sharp with snowmelt. Denver in April still held the chill of winter behind its sunsets. I passed a yoga studio where a class moved in silence, bodies twisting in candlelight. I wondered if she'd ever feel guilt in those stretches, in those meditations. I hoped not. Guilt clouds judgment. And I needed her to be clear-eyed enough to agree to terms when the time came. Later that week, Marla called. She's not going to contest, she said. She's not even asking for mediation. Her attorney said she wants a clean, quiet outcome. You've got that. I thanked her. Hung up. Sat with the silence. The house was still. Laura was upstairs. I opened the drawer beside my desk and pulled out the ashtray. It was an old one, ceramic, cracked slightly along the base. A leftover from her college years. She hadn't used it in forever. But she'd kept it on a shelf in the garage. Said it reminded her who she didn't want to be. I turned it over in my hands. Then set it down in the center of the table. She'd see it soon. And she'd know what came next. She found the ashtray before she saw the papers. It was sitting at the center of the dining table, a small, cracked ceramic dish that had lived on a forgotten garage shelf for years. Laura used to joke that she kept it to remind herself of dumb college habits. She hadn't smoked in a decade. Now it sat between us, pristine and deliberate. She stood in the doorway, gym bag still over one shoulder. Her hair was pulled back. Her cheeks flushed, probably from the cold, maybe from something else. She looked at the ashtray, then at me. What's this? She asked, her voice wary. I didn't answer immediately. I gestured toward the seat across from mine. Sit. She did, slowly, without taking her eyes off the ashtray. I slid the folder across the table. The cover page was clean. Her name typed neatly. Below it, parenting plan proposal, initial draft. Her hands hovered above the table before she touched the folder. She didn't open it right away. I want to handle this respectfully, I said. I've already spoken to a lawyer. There's no need for mediation unless you push for it. Her eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I know, I said. Her jaw tensed. Know what? I opened the second folder and fanned out the contents, hotel receipts, message screenshots, photos, date logs. The gym hoodie in the cafe. The mirrored spa booking. Her signature. Her silence as I laid each one down was louder than any denial. Still, she tried. This is private. This is a violation. What you've done in my house, in our garage, in front of our son, I said, that's the violation. Her eyes dropped to the ashtray again. You said that reminded you who you didn't want to be, I said. Turns out, it's exactly who you became. She exhaled slowly, as if she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Maybe she had. She looked older in that moment. Or maybe just finally honest. I didn't plan any of this, she whispered. But you protected it, I said. You lied for it. You moved around it like it was worth our silence. She looked up at me, eyes wet now. I never wanted to hurt you. I believe that, I replied. But you did. And I can't pretend this didn't happen. Our son deserves better than pretending. She finally opened the folder. Scan the first few pages of the custody plan. You're not asking for everything. No. Just what I've already been doing. She nodded slowly. I don't want to fight. Good, I said. Because I'm not angry anymore. I'm focused. She reached for the ashtray. Her fingers ran over the crack along its rim. I was going to throw this out years ago, she said. But you didn't, I said. Maybe now you know why. She pushed it toward me. What now? You'll move out within 2 weeks, I said. I'll help explain things to our son. As simply and gently as I can. You'll have your time with him, but you won't keep lying around him. She nodded again, slower this time. Resigned. I stood. Picked up the ashtray. I'm keeping this, I said. Not because it means anything good, but because it reminds me what I won't ignore again. She didn't argue. As I walked past her, I heard her whisper, I didn't know you were capable of this. I stopped at the doorway. You never paid enough attention to find out. She moved out on a Monday. No drama. No tears. She packed quietly, boxing up her yoga gear and detox supplements while our son was at school. I offered to help. She declined. There wasn't much to say. We had already said everything that mattered. The house was still when she left, too still at first. I thought I'd feel relieved. Instead, I just stood in the hallway, noticing the spaces her absence carved. The hooks without her scarves. The empty side of the bathroom shelf. But the silence didn't last long. It became space. Breathing room. I kept the structure. Same morning routine with our son. Same bedtime story rotation. I didn't skip a beat. He asked once why Mom had a new place. I said, sometimes adults stop being good together. But we're both still your parents. That hasn't changed. He nodded. Then asked if we could still make waffles on Sundays. We did. The divorce finalized faster than I expected. No mediation. No courtroom. Her lawyer agreed to the parenting plan with only minor revisions, adjusting summer visitation and adding shared holidays. I got the house. Joint legal custody. Primary physical custody during the week. Marla, my attorney, called it a clean finish to a messy start. It wasn't a win. It was a restoration. I kept going to therapy. Sasha told me I wasn't just grieving a person, I was grieving a version of myself who trusted too easily. That version didn't need to die. He just needed better boundaries. I started woodworking again. I turned the garage, the same one Laura had used for stolen hours, into a small workshop. Not for profit. Just for peace. The ashtray sat on the windowsill above my bench. Still cracked. Still ugly. But clean. It didn't taunt me. It reminded me. Not of her, but of me. Who I became because I didn't let chaos define me. In the evenings, after homework and dishes, I started writing. Not journals, reflections. Quiet notes for myself. I posted one online. Then another. A blog, nothing flashy, titled, Wait Without Rage. People found it. Slowly. Quietly. Comments trickled in. I needed this tonight. Thank you. You wrote exactly what I'm feeling but couldn't say. One message simply said. You're the first person who made me feel like I'm not insane for staying calm. I replied. Calm isn't weakness. It's design. I never talked about Laura directly. I never exposed her name or told our son more than he needed. That was part of the discipline. What we destroy in anger stays broken. But what we dismantle with intention, sometimes that can be rebuilt into something better. We planted a small tree in the front yard in late spring. My son picked it, a little blue spruce. He named it Rocket. Every week we watered it together. Watched it hold its ground. Even through wind. Even through cold. One morning he looked up at me and said, "It's getting stronger." I looked at the tree. Then back at him. "So are we," I said.